There is something happening inside your mind right now that you have never been formally taught to control. Not your emotions, not your circumstances, not the people around you or the situations life keeps handing you. The conversation, the one running continuously in the background of every single moment of your life, the one that started the second you opened your eyes this morning, the one that told you something about yourself before you even had a chance to brush your teeth. And here is what Carl Jung understood that most people spend their entire lives never discovering. That conversation is not just describing your life, it is constructing it, word by word, thought by thought, repetition by repetition. The most accomplished, most psychologically free, most genuinely alive people you have ever encountered share one quality that has nothing to do with their talent or their circumstances or the opportunities that happen to find them. They have learned to govern that conversation, and most of them will never tell you how. But Jung spent his entire career mapping the architecture of the inner world, and what he found there was not complicated. It was just hidden, until now. Over the next 7 days, you are going to change the conversation. Not all of it, not perfectly, not without resistance or difficulty or the specific discomfort of dismantling something you have been building unconsciously for years, but enough. Enough to feel genuinely different by the end of it. Enough to look back at day 1 from day 7 and understand that something in you has actually moved. Stay with me, because what comes next is not motivation, it is instruction. Before the 7 days begin, there is something you need to understand about why this is so difficult. Jung identified it in his concept of the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is not the worst of you. It is simply the parts of your psyche that were pushed underground because the surface required something different. Your inner dialogue is largely shadow-driven. The voice that says you are not enough, that you will probably fail, that other people have something you do not, that your past has already decided your future. That voice did not originate in you. It was installed by environments that needed you to be manageable, by relationships that were more comfortable with your smallness than your expansion, by years of accumulated evidence carefully selected by a nervous system trying to protect you from the specific pain of trying and being wrong. The voice is loyal, it is consistent, it is genuinely trying to keep you safe, but it is operating on information that is years out of date, and it is running your life from a file that was last updated when you were someone far less capable of handling reality than you are now. Jung called the process of reclaiming this shadow individuation. The 7 days you are about to begin are individuation made practical. 1 day at a time. One conversation at a time. Days 1 and 2, the archaeology. Before you can change the conversation, you have to hear it. Really hear it. Not the surface version. Not the polished narrative you tell people when they ask how you are. The actual version. The one running beneath that. Most people have been so thoroughly fused with their inner dialogue for so long that they experience it not as a conversation, but as reality. They do not think, my mind is telling me I am not capable of this. They think, I'm not capable of this. The thought is not observed, it is inhabited. Your task for the first 2 days is archaeological. You are going to excavate. You are going to spend these 2 days becoming a precise observer of your own inner climate. Not to judge what you find, not to immediately fix what you find, not to perform psychological sophistication about what you find, just to find it. Carry something to write with. Every time you notice your inner dialogue producing something that contracts you, something that makes you smaller, more hesitant, less worthy, less capable, write it down. Not in a journal of suffering, in a document of data. You are not your thoughts. Jung was precise about this. You are the consciousness that can observe its thoughts. And observation is the first act of sovereignty. The specific phrases your mind uses repeatedly during these 2 days are important. I am not good at this. This will not work. I always end up here. People like me do not get things like that. These are not truths. These are programs. Outdated software running on hardware that has significantly upgraded since the programs were installed. By the end of day 2, you will have a map, not a flattering one, an accurate one. And accuracy is the beginning of everything. Days 3 and 4, the interruption. Now you have the map. Now the real work begins. Jung described psychological transformation not as the elimination of the negative, but as the conscious integration of the whole. You are not trying to silence the inner critic. You are trying to stop letting it drive. The interruption technique is simple. Its simplicity is its strength. The moment you catch your inner dialogue producing a contraction, a familiar limiting phrase, a recycled story about your inadequacy, a well-worn narrative about why something is not possible for you, you stop, not forcefully, not with suppression, with authority. You say internally or out loud if you are alone, I see this pattern. This is not current information, this is old programming running without my permission. And then you ask one question. What would I say to someone I loved if they were thinking this right now? Not what you think the right answer is. What you would actually say to someone you genuinely cared about, someone you wanted to see succeed, someone whose fear you could see clearly because it was not your own and therefore had no power to distort your perception of them. You would not tell them they were right to be afraid. You would not agree that the ceiling they had constructed in their mind was actually made of stone. You would see the fear for what it was, old information dressed as prophecy. And you would say something that was both kind and honest. Do that for yourself, not once, not when you feel inspired, every time. For these 2 days, every time the pattern surfaces, interrupt it, redirect it, not with denial. With the specific compassion you extend easily to everyone except the person who needs it most, yourself. By the end of day 4, something will have shifted, not dramatically, not in a way that makes a good story, but the automatic quality of the old pattern will have weakened, because you interrupted it enough times that the nervous system has begun receiving a different message, that you are paying attention now, that the old programs are visible, that visible programs cannot operate with the same unconscious authority they had before you started looking directly at them. Days 5 and 6 in the installation. Jung said that the psyche abhors a vacuum. You cannot simply remove a pattern. You have to replace it with something that serves you better. This is the installation phase, and this is where most approaches fail, because they ask you to install something fake. They tell you to stand in front of a mirror and say things you do not believe with a conviction you do not feel. And your nervous system, which is highly sophisticated and completely uninterested in being deceived, immediately registers the incoherence. It feels false because it is false. Jung's approach was different. He was not interested in bypassing the unconscious. He was interested in working with it. And the unconscious responds not to declarations, but to questions. During days 5 and 6, your practice is built around 3 specific questions. The first, what do I know about myself that my inner critic has never acknowledged? Not what you hope is true, not what you want to believe, what you actually know. The evidence that exists but that the old programming consistently ignores. The time you handled something you did not think you could handle. The moment you showed up for someone when everything in you wanted to disappear. The capacity you have demonstrated repeatedly that the inner critic treats as irrelevant because it does not fit the story it has been telling. Gather this evidence. Treat it with the same seriousness you have been treating the contrary evidence for years. The second question, if the most capable version of me were handling today, what would that inner dialogue sound like? Not a fantasy, not an idealized superhuman version of yourself, the realistic version, the version that exists in your best moments, that has appeared in your life before and will appear again. What does that version say to itself when it encounters difficulty? What is the tone? What is the orientation? What is the relationship between that version of you and uncertainty? Spend time with this, write it down, because you are not imagining a different person. You are mapping a version of yourself that already exists, and the more clearly you map it, the more accessible it becomes. The third question, what is one thing I could say to myself today that would be both honest and genuinely useful, not false positivity, not the thing that sounds most inspiring, the thing that is true and that moves you forward rather than confirming your limitations. I have handled hard things before and I am handling this. I do not have all the answers right now, and I have functioned without all the answers before. This is uncomfortable, and discomfort is not the same as danger. These are not affirmations. They are accurate statements, and accurate statements, delivered with the specific intention of being genuinely helpful to yourself, rewire the inner conversation over time in ways that declarations never can. By the end of day 6, your inner dialogue will have a new architecture. Not perfect, not finished, but structurally different from the one that was there on day 1. The old programs will still surface, but they will be surfacing into a psyche that is no longer accepting them as automatically true. And that distinction changes everything. Day 7, the integration. Jung called the goal of individuation not happiness, not success. Wholeness. The state of a person who has gathered the fragments of themselves back together and is operating from a center that is genuinely their own. Day 7 is not a practice day. It is an integration day. Your task is simply to notice, to move through an ordinary day and observe the difference between the inner dialogue you have now and the one you documented on day 1. Not to celebrate it, not to judge whether the progress is sufficient, to observe it. Because observation is how this becomes permanent. The nervous system learns through attention, and the thing you attend to grows. If you attend to the old programs, they grow. If you attend to the new conversation you have been building, it grows. Day 7 is the day you make a decision, not a dramatic one, a quiet one. The decision to keep attending to the new conversation. Not because it is always easier, not because it always feels natural, but because you have spent 7 days discovering something Jung spent his entire career pointing toward. That the conversation inside your head is not fate. It is not the truth about you delivered from some objective external source. It is a program, highly sophisticated, deeply embedded, genuinely influential over your behavior and your experience and the specific shape your life takes. But a program. And programs can be changed. Not instantaneously, not without effort or attention or the specific willingness to keep choosing differently, even when the old choice is more automatic. But changed by anyone willing to do what you have spent these 7 days doing. Paying attention, interrupting, installing something better, and then attending to it until it becomes the new automatic, until the voice inside your head sounds less like the accumulated fear of everyone who needed you to be smaller than your potential, and more like someone who genuinely knows you, all of you, and has decided, based on actual evidence rather than outdated programming, that you are capable of what you have been telling yourself you are not, because you are. The evidence was always there. The conversation was just too loud to let you hear it. 7 days is enough to begin to change that. And beginning is everything. Jung said it precisely. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You have spent 7 days making the unconscious conscious. What happens next is no longer fate. It is choice. And choice, exercised with awareness and consistency, and the specific kind of self-directed compassion that most people extend to everyone except themselves, is the most powerful force the human psyche possesses. Use it.